The horizontal circle that passes through the center of the earth at an equal distance between the north and south poles is called the equator or the 0-degree latitude. The equator divides the earth into two equal halves. Also, the equator is the largest among all the latitudes. The latitudes are expressed in degrees, minutes and seconds. One can see parallel circles from the equator towards the poles. Each of these parallel circles is latitude.
The latitudes are therefore the horizontal lines on the globe.
The word latitude comes from the Latin word latitudo, which translates as width. The latitudes therefore point out the width of the map. The values of the latitudes range from 0 degrees to 90 degrees north at the North Pole and 90 degrees south at the South Pole. There are 180 main latitudes between the North Pole and South Pole, excluding the equator. As the latitudes are parallel to each other, they are also called parallels.
All the latitudes must be designated with their respective directions. While N stands for north, S stands for south, but there is no north or south for the equator. Students, some of the latitudes are given specific names which can be related to the pattern of sunlight falling on the earth.
With the equator being the largest latitude, the remaining latitudes become smaller as they reach the poles. If you observe at the poles, the 90 degrees north and the 90 degrees south latitudes are just points and not circles.
Students, the fact that you have done your hemisphere exercise, can you now tell the differentiate between the northern and the southern hemispheres?
The half of the earth between the equator and the North Pole is the northern hemisphere, and the half of the earth between the equator and the South Pole is the southern hemisphere.
Now, let us learn about the longitudes.
The word longitudes comes from the Latin word longitudo, which means length. Therefore, the longitudes give us the length or height of a map. The longitudes, unlike latitudes, are semicircles that connect one pole to the other. Every longitude cuts every latitude on the globe. The longitudes are also called meridians. The longitudes, like the latitudes, are divided into minutes and seconds.
Now, let us learn about the Greenwich longitude.
The longitude that passes through the astronomical observatory located at Greenwich, England, is known as the 0-degree meridian or the prime meridian or the Greenwich meridian.
Although many countries tried to fix the longitude that passed through their country as the 0-degree longitude, it was England which decided that the Greenwich meridian would be the 0-degree longitude. Students, why do you think England decided and everyone followed England's decision? Yes, then England was ruling the major parts of the world and hence everyone followed their system.
When it comes to longitudes, there are 360 longitudes. The main longitudes are divided into two groups. The first group consists of the longitudes between 0 degree and 180 degrees east, which are called the east longitudes. The second group consists of 0 degree and 180 degrees west, which are called the west longitudes. While the east longitudes form the eastern hemisphere, the west longitudes make the western hemisphere. If you observe, the 0 degree and the 180 degree longitudes do not have direction markers, while the other longitudes have direction markers. The longitude directly opposite to the 0 degree longitude or the Greenwich meridian is known as the anti-meridian.
The 43 degree E simply means 43 degrees east longitude, whereas 135 degrees W means 135 degrees west longitudes.
For the sun to move 1 degree of longitude, it takes 4 minutes. Therefore, the time changes for every degree of longitude.
This is the reason for the changes in the time. Let's understand it with an example. Isn't it confusing? Yes, certainly. In order to address these confusions in the time, the world has been divided into 24 time zones, starting with the Greenwich meridian and going east and west.
The width of each of the 24 time zones in the world is 15 degrees of longitude. This implies that there is a difference of 1 hour between one time zone and the next time zone.
Students, how do you think is the difference 1 hour?
With the width of the time zone being 15 degrees of longitude, the sun taking 4 minutes to move each degree of longitude, it is 15 degrees multiplied by 4 minutes, which is 60 minutes. Time gets added as one moves east from Greenwich meridian, while time is subtracted as one goes west of the Greenwich meridian. This concept is otherwise called as East Gain Add, EGA, or West Lost Subtract, WLS.
Students, sometimes some countries would have multiple time zones with less than half an hour time division. It is complicated with different parts following different time frames in the same country. This is the reason why some of the countries opt for the time along one of the meridians that pass through their country or territory. This time is followed by the whole country. The time thus is called Standard Time. It is Indian Standard Time IST and Pakistan Standard Time and so on.
The 82 degrees 30 minutes eastern longitude is taken as the standard meridians of India, which is the Indian Standard Time, IST. The difference between the Greenwich and the Indian Standard Time is 5.5 hours.
Although it is the same time for all places in the country, it becomes difficult for countries that spread across a number of longitudes to follow the same time. This is why some of the countries are further divided into time zones with 1 hour time difference between one time zone and the next. Students, this is how the latitudes and longitudes help in understanding the location of places, time zones, the information, etc.